Hi, welcome to Extraordinary Stories with me, Barry Henderson. How are you? Are you well? Are you good? I am. So if you're just listening for the first time or you don't know what the small stories are, this is an episode in which I pull together a few stories that I've fallen in love with, that come under one theme, that come under one idea, one notion. And rather than just tell one story in an episode, I tell a few. So before we get to the stories, can I just say a quick couple of hellos and thank yous. The first hello goes to Iris Mertens for the review and the very kind words on Facebook. Iris, I really hope I've said your name correctly there. I looked at it about a million times and I thought, is it Mertens? Is it Martins? But I think it's Mertens. Anyway, Iris, thanks so much. What you said was really, really lovely. So Iris joined the Facebook group and said the Facebook page and said some really nice things. Let's say a quick hello to the True Crime Fan Club podcast, whose Facebook page and podcast I just discovered today, and I'm absolutely loving it. Also, hello to the Happy Horror Coffee Break podcast. Thank you for your support. And True Crime Garage. You guys are doing an amazing job, and I'm really enjoying listening to the podcast, and thank you for the retweets, and thank you for your support. So these are all great podcasts, they're all worth a listen. But on with Extraordinary Stories podcast. The theme, the notion for this episode is getting it wrong. Now, we all make mistakes, we all fuck up, we all say sorry, but what if what you had got wrong had an absolutely irreversible effect? I've got 3 stories for you. Okay, let's go. Sally Clark was born in Wiltshire, England in 1964. Her father was a senior police officer and her mother was a hairdresser. She studied geography at Southampton University and worked as a management trainee with various banks. Sally married solicitor Steve Clark in 1990 and left her job in London to train in the same profession as Steve. Soon after studying law, she trained at a city law firm. Steve and Sally bought a house in Cheshire. 2 years later, Sally Clark was found guilty of the murder of both of her sons. Sally Clark's first son, Christopher, was born on the 26th of September 1996. He was a healthy baby. On December 13th, he was only 3 months old. Sally called an ambulance to the family home. The baby had fallen unconscious after being put to bed and was later declared dead in the hospital. Initially, cot death was put down as the cause of death. Sally, understandably, horrible. Sally suffered postnatal depression and she received counselling from the Priory Clinic. And in the time of her recovery, she and her husband Steve, they fell pregnant again, and their second son Harry was born on the 29th of November 1997. So that's less than a year after the first child, Christopher, has died. She's already giving birth to her second son Harry. However, on the 26th of January 1998, aged only 8 weeks, Harry was found dead. Now, on both of these occasions, Sally was at home alone with her babies and she carried them to their beds. On both babies, there was evidence of trauma, which could have been related to Sally's attempts to try and resuscitate her babies. Sally and her husband Steve, they were both arrested on suspicion of murdering their children. Now, on the advice of her lawyers, she refused to answer any questions about this. She was later charged with 2 counts of murder, but the case against her husband was dropped. So now Sally's in the frame. So ultimately it comes down to, here is a mother who has killed her 2 babies. Sally denied this charge, and throughout the whole entire thing, she was supported by Steve, her husband. During the court proceedings, She gave birth to a third son. I don't know. I mean, I'm not... God, this is not a situation that I've ever been in my life and would never want to be in, ever. But it doesn't really seem like the time to me to be having a third child. But then I don't know if maybe that's... I don't know if that's a part of grief or... I don't know. You know something? I don't even pretend to know about that. That's to do with their relationship and why they chose when they had... Christopher had died, Harry had died, why they chose to have a third baby during the time when she was charged with the murder of the first two, why they chose to have another baby, that's their decision, and I wouldn't even dare to go there, because that's not my place. That's nobody's place to go there. That's their choice. So Sally was tried at Chester Crown Court before Mr. Justice Harrison and a jury of 12. Now, the prosecution team was considered controversial due to the involvement of a paediatrician called Professor Sir Roy Meadow. Now, he's going to play a big part in this story. Professor Meadows. Nice name, not a nice man. In fact, a fucking dick. Professor Meadows testified at Sally's trial that the chance of two children from an affluent family suffering cot death was 1 in 73 million. Now, I'm just going to stop here and pause, because that was his statement. What's affluent got to do with it? That was my first thought. He's surely not trying to say that cot deaths are more frequent in lower income families. Is he? Is that what he's actually trying to say? There's something in that statement. There's something in it. In the background of that, there's some sort of a subtext. There's a sort of comment on the level of care provided by different classes of society that really pisses me off, because it's just not true. You're not telling me that kids who come from a more affluent family are better looked after, are better put into a cot by their parents. I'm just not buying that. I'm not buying that for one fucking second. So, Professor Meadows arriving at this figure, one more time, 1 in 73 million. This baffled so many other people in his field. Now, they couldn't make sense of his workings. So, basically, he was talking bullshit. He pulled some ridiculous figure out of the air, and now the fate of a mother accused of murdering 2 of her kids lies in the hands of a man who's pulling figures out of fucking thin air. He had these wise words to say in court. 1 sudden infant death in a family is a tragedy. 2 is suspicious. And 3 is murder, unless proven otherwise. Now, there wasn't a third. There. He was just being grandiose. He was just trying to make a big balls statement at that point. Oh, this just makes me so mad. It makes me so angry. He also said along the way this most ridiculous statement, and I'm including this because it becomes important to the story. He likened the probability of 2 cot deaths to the chances of backing an 80-1 outsider in the Grand National 4 years running and winning each time. Now that is a fucking nightmare right there. In a court of law, when a mother is being tried for the death of 2 kids, do not equate it to an annual horse racing event that happens where the odds of winning are terrible. I mean, the Grand National is just one of those events that happens every fucking year in the UK. You put your money down, you know you're not going to win. It's a spectacle. It's just it's a bit of fun. There's loads of horses into it. You're never going to win it. But you're telling me in court he actually got up and made a statement that likened her case to the fucking Grand National. What a dick. So, in a newspaper around the time the following was published. When a caught death mother is accused of murder, the prosecution sometimes employs a tactic such as the following. If the parents are affluent, in a stable relationship, and non-smoking, the prosecution will claim that the chances of the death being natural are greatly reduced, and by implication that the chances of death being homicide are greatly increased. But this implication is totally false, because the very same factors which make a family low risk for caught death also make it a low risk for murder. Again, the affluence thing, I don't get where this is. Well, I do get it. I know what they're trying to say, but it fucking pisses me off. Are you trying to say that actually it's less likely that a caught death will happen for an affluent family? Just really, yeah, that bothers me. Bothers me a lot. So, as well, in court, as well as Professor, I'm just going to go a wee bit crazy with the statistics here, Meadows, there was a doctor called Alan Williams. Now, he was the pathologist who examined both of the dead children. During an examination of baby Harry, the second child, he found evidence of a bacteria in the baby's system. Now, this could have been the possible cause of death, but when it came to court, he didn't disclose this information. Why? I don't know. Why he was allowed to not disclose this, I don't know. But he just entirely failed to mention it. He was asked directly by Sally's lawyer, are there any blood test results for either of these babies? And he said, no. Wait, what? What is this? What? He's a doctor. He's in court. He has tested both of these babies. Why is he saying no? That's ludicrous. However, as part of the evidence, the jury were allowed to see the baby's medical records. They were allowed to see the death certificate. They were allowed to see all of the paperwork that surrounded those deaths, and they had questions. There were some things on the doctor's form that they didn't understand. They wanted clarification on a couple of the things that he had written, so he had to get back up on the stand, and he had to answer some pretty tough questions. The jury asked, there's a couple of things in your notes that we don't know what these are. He batted these away. He left the jury with no more answers. He said, oh, it was this, it was that, but nothing that actually was of any use to them, and nothing that was actually ever going to help them determine whether Sally was actually the killer of her two children or not. He said, anything that's on these forms, it's not important enough for me to have ever mentioned it or ever brought it up. So we'll just leave it there. You basically treating them like dicks, basically saying you wouldn't understand jury members. You wouldn't understand these things that are on these forms. They're not important. That's why I never brought them up in the first place. Sally Clark was convicted by a 10-2 majority verdict in 1999, and she was given life in prison. She was wildly reviled in the press as the murderer of her two young children. She was imprisoned at Styles Women Prison near Hounslow, and then she was moved to a prison in Essex. Now, the nature of her conviction as a child killer made her a target for other prisoners. So we've all heard these terrible, horrible stories of what happens to child killers, child rapists in prison. That was no different for Sally. She was brutalised in prison. So her husband, He left his partnership at the law firm he was working at in Manchester, and he took up work as a legal assistant to be nearer the prison where Sally was. He had to sell the family house to meet the legal bills from the trial, and together they planned an appeal. So the first appeal begins, and firstly, the statistical evidence is brought up. So it's challenged that the fucking tool who said 1 in 73 million chance that she did this, the Grand National man, that was challenged, but nothing came of that, and so she remained in prison. So then, a second appeal begins. Now by now, Sally and Steve's family, they are throwing all of the money that they can find at this. They are selling their houses, they're cashing in their insurances, they're borrowing, they're begging, they're doing whatever they can. They're putting their entire life on hold for the second appeal because they just know that they need this second appeal. Her husband was calling in favours from everyone he'd ever worked with. And one of his friends says, okay, let me see these blood reports. Let me just look at these babies' blood reports, the ones that were dismissed during the trial. And when the friend looks at them, he realises that actually the markings that the doctor has written next to them, the doctor who had the balls to stand there and lie, is actually noted that there was a bacteria inside of Harry, who was the second baby to die. There was a bacteria in Harry's body, and that was more than likely to be the cause. So he's brought back to the stand and he's asked about this, and it's put to him, you told us there was nothing that we needed to know about with these blood test results. Why did you not mention this? And you know what he says? Because he is such a fucking prick. He says, I knew there was bacteria evidence in the second baby, but I felt that overall she was probably guilty, so I just didn't say anything about it. What a dickhead. Why are you a doctor? What are you? You're a monster. You're an absolute monster. So they determined that basically, yes, tragic as it is, Sally's first baby, Christopher, it was caught death. That's what it was. Plain and simple. No, I'm saying plain and simple. Of course, it's not fucking plain and simple. It's the most horrible thing in the world. But it was caught death. That's what it was. And in Harry, he had been born with something in his blood, some bacteria, and that's what killed him. So, it's discovered after all these years that Sally, she's not responsible for these deaths. So, her murder conviction is overturned and she is set free. The appeal court concludes that the evidence that we saw in court in the first trial should never have been presented to the jury in the way that it was. And coming back to that ridiculous clown's fucking horse racing theory, the judge says, we rather suspect that the graphic reference by Professor Meadows to the chances of winning the Grand National might have had a major effect on the jury's thinking. Oh god, it's ludicrous. It's actually ludicrous. Okay, so what happens next? Good things. I'm happy about these things. Professor Meadows was struck off the medical register by the General Medical Council in 2005 for serious professional misconduct. Yeah, that's right, mate. Go make up stupid fucking statistics elsewhere, not when you're actually going to send a woman to prison for something she didn't fucking do. The dickhead doctor, he was banned from the Home Office pathology work and coroner's cases for 3 years. The General Medical Council found him guilty of serious professional misconduct. So, this should all be good news. But not for Sally. Not for Sally Clark, given what she's been through. After her release, her husband said she will never be well again. Family members said Sally was unable to come to terms with the false accusations based on flawed medical evidence and the failures of the legal system, which debased everything she had been brought up to believe in and in which she herself practiced. It was understood that later on, Sally was diagnosed with a number of serious psychiatric problems. They included severe personality changes, protracted grief reaction, and alcohol dependency. And oh God, this is just horrible. Sally Clark was found dead in her home on the 16th of March 2007, 3 years after leaving prison for a crime that she didn't commit. Now, at first, it looked like Sally had died of natural causes, but an inquest ruled that she died of acute alcohol intoxication. Sally had drunk herself to death. Fucking brutal. Now, this story is not really that long ago. How the fuck are people getting away with these things in court? Okay, this story it's just horrible because there's no winners. In this case, you can say, yeah, great, okay, so she went to prison and it was wrong. But actually, the babies, Sally, her husband, all those lives are fucked. And the grief that she and her husband must have felt in the years after the loss of their kids, followed by the years of agony to come, it's just unbearable. Now, I'll not linger too long on this. I think the evidence that the jury were given in court was really the big mess here. I think that was really the big problem. But there is something about when a child dies, or when children dies, there's something about wanting the parents to be guilty. I'm not saying I want the parents to be guilty. I'm just saying there becomes a sort of rhetoric, a sort of social thinking around it begins to develop. And people become quite obsessed by the idea that actually, if you've got 2 children dead on your hands, you have to look to the parents. So, cases that jump to my head straight away would be things like John Bonet. So John Bonet Ramsey, really deep down, everyone kind of wants Patsy to be guilty, don't we? Madeleine McCann, you want Kate and Jerry to have played a role in that somewhere. Casey Anthony. How many people believe Casey Anthony was actually guilty? So there's always going to be a polar opinion to that. Of course there is. And what I will say as the sort of opposite to that, I'm not saying that I want these parents to be guilty. I'm just saying there is a lot of thought around that, and sometimes in those cases what happens is a huge sort of energy builds behind the story where it all drives towards the parents. But thankfully there are groups in the world who are there to protect parents from being immediately blamed and from having the finger pointed at them. I just think that the social thinking around that needs to change somewhere. I'm not saying that Sally Clark went to prison because the jury just went, oh, actually, it has to be the mother. I think it was that fucked evidence that they were given. But there's a something there. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that Patsy Ramsey, Casey Anthony thing is. I don't know how to pin that down into a very easily digestible idea. So That is, unfortunately, the very tragic story of Sally Clark. Okay, on to story 2. Okay, Joyce Ann Brown. Let me tell you about this lady. What a woman she is. Her name is Joyce Ann Brown. So in a nutshell, her story is this. She was born and raised in Dallas to a large, hard-working family. She married, but it didn't work out. And in a desperate attempt to raise money for her family, she was briefly, very briefly, now nothing major, very briefly, she had a time as a sex worker, but only for a short stint. She moved away from being a sex worker very quickly, and she had a respectable job at the Coslo's Furs in Dallas. So a fur manufacturer, and she was the receptionist. Her life was settled and it was fairly content. There were, unfortunately, 3 major things in Joyce Ann Brown's life which were about to cause her major problems. Number 1, the fact that she had been arrested years before for her brief stint as a sex worker. Number 2, the fact that she was a receptionist for a fur company. And number 3, the fact that her name was Joyce Ann Brown. So we'll pause on Joyce for just 1 wee second and take a trip to another part of Texas. So at 1 o'clock on the afternoon of May 6th, 1980, 2 women walk into a shop called Fine Furs by Ruben, and this is owned by Ruben and Alla Danziger. One of the women orders the Danzigers at gunpoint to load furs into a plastic trash bag. Before leaving, the same woman who demanded the furs go in the bag, she shoots Mr. Danziger and he later dies. She and her female accomplice, they flee the scene in a brown Datsun. Dallas police officers the next day find the car abandoned, and they learn that it has been rented by a woman named Joyce Ann Brown. So imagine the Joyce Ann Brown I was telling you about in the beginning. Imagine her shock when she opens the newspaper and she sees her own name in connection with this absolutely brutal murder. Now, she hadn't been contacted by the police. She just saw her name and she thought, what the fuck? So she went down to the police station to clear the matter up, thinking this is ridiculous. And this, unfortunately, is where the real trouble begins. Joyce was really confident that this would all be cleared up really quickly. She had an alibi. She was at work during the time that the robbery had taken place. Now, the robbery was miles away from where she lived. So she thought, well, this is silly. This is just an error where my name's been printed and it's a mistake. Her work time clock shows her punching in early in the morning and leaving in the early evening on the day of the murder. So she was at work all day. But the 3 things that I just mentioned, these were what were about to really work against Joyce. The fact that she had this record, it meant that the police had a photo of her from years before when she'd been a sex worker. Second of all, she worked as a receptionist for a fur making business. Now, police believed at this point, well, okay, it's got to be you because you would know what's expensive. And again, the name. It's the same name that the car was registered in. The crime was committed by a woman who was called Joyce Ann Brown, and here they had her standing in a police station. So just to go back to the photo for a second, Mrs. Danziger, who survived the attack in the shop, she was shown the photograph of the Joyce I'm talking about, the good Joyce, the Joyce that we know, and unfortunately she identified her as the robber. Now, that's where it gets really tricky and it gets really complicated because she's been shown this photograph of a woman who actually, she wasn't there. She wasn't there. She wasn't the one that shot your husband. But she's shown a photograph, and in the confusion, she says, yeah, it was her. Our Joyce. She's arrested, and they press forward with a trial, which is unbelievable. Police said at the time, there's an idea that possibly it might have been another Joyce Ann Brown, this Denver woman, but actually it's kind of unlikely. There's way too many, way too many coincidences. So we're going to arrest the woman who walked into our police station. It's fucking nuts. It's absolutely fucking crazy. So the theory of the crime put forward by the prosecutors is that Mrs. Brown had slipped out of her office, driven 3 miles to the Danziger's first shop, committed the robbery. She made the 3-mile return trip, and she went back to work. Now, she was supposed to have done all of that in a 36-minute lunch break. Yeah, good luck. When I get a lunch break, I can, by the time I've, done things I need to do, and, I need to get coffee, no, I need to smoke a fag, I need to go and, text that person, do this, shit, try and eat a sandwich, no, what's that you saying, my lunch break's over? Are you telling me that you could possibly have done all of that in 36 minutes? I don't think so. Now, the jury found her guilty of aggravated robbery. Unbelievable. She's sentenced to 25 years to life. Now, the case gathers a lot of attention. Joyce Ann Brown's name becomes very well known, and the reason is, and I think this is such a good thing, it's because actually people say this is about race and it's about class. It's reported at the time that there were no other black people involved in this case anywhere. So Joyce Ann Brown, she's the only black person involved in this, and it's her fucking case. She's the one on trial. She's the one who's being told, you did this, and she's going, no, I fucking didn't. No, I didn't. She says, and this is it's just really powerful, she says, I've been represented by a white attorney, convicted by a white jury, and sentenced by a white judge. And I arrived at prison in a white bus. She said that in 1990. I think the white bus thing, I mean, I don't know that the colour of the bus actually really means anything, but I do think her words there are powerful. White attorney, white jury, white judge. So a huge sort of race row happens around this, which I'm glad about, because I think it's really important to know that actually, can I just, you know what, I'm just going to say this, and I kind of don't know how to word it in a way that's not going to be offensive, or how am I going to, I don't know how to say this. Yeah, I think there's a possible issue here with the fact that the widow who survived, who didn't get shot when the robberies happened, was shown a photograph of a black woman, and I think there wasn't enough thought given to that at that moment. I don't think that there was enough support given to that woman at that moment to be able to say actually it wasn't her, and it wasn't her. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I've sort of lost the plot here. I don't actually know what. I'll tell you what I think I'm trying to say, and if I'm offending anyone or speaking completely incorrectly, then please let me know. Please, I don't mean to offend anybody at any second. I just think there was probably something at the time where it was about police just getting that black person into prison. So I don't know that Mrs. Danziger really actually knew when she looked at that photograph that this was absolutely the right woman who'd shot her husband. I don't really feel like I fucking said that properly. I don't. Anyway, what I'm trying to say, I'm circling around it here. I'm getting myself tied up in knots. What I'm trying to say is that actually I do think there was a racist element to this case. I do think there was something by the police, or there was something racially was not okay at that time. So other high profile issues that were raised and examined within this case were mistaken identity, the prosecutorial misconduct. So Joyce Ann Brown served 9 years for a crime that she did not commit. Oh, fucking hell. It's terrible. After appeal and retrials, in November 1989, the court granted Ms. Brown her freedom. Still, 9 years though. She'd spent fucking 9 years in prison. Yes, thank God she was freed. Now, the real killer was eventually identified and sentenced years later. She was already in prison in another part of the country for a robbery she'd committed elsewhere. So one brilliant detective put the whole thing together and was like, hang on. I think it was actually her that did it. I think she was here at the right time. I think she could have been there in the first shop. She committed the murder. It's her. So that's good. Joyce went on to found something called MASS, Mothers for the Advancement of Social Systems. MASS is a mission where they assist wrongfully convicted prisoners, and they help these people who've been wrongfully convicted integrate back into society, which is a brilliant thing. I mean, it's a terrible thing that happened to Joyce. It's horrible that she had to go to prison for 9 years for something she never did. But thank God that she was then able to make a life for herself where she could help other people who had been in that situation. So Joyce, unfortunately, she died in 2015, but she spent every day up until she died fighting for those who had been wrongfully convicted. So that is the silver lining in the Joyce case, is that actually she went on to help so many other people. Okay, and on to the final story. According to a death certificate issued on April 26th, 2016, 18-year-old Whitney Sirac had died in a horrible crash. The van she was travelling in, along with her fellow students from the Taylor University in Indiana, was hit from behind by a truck, which crushed and caused the death of 5 victims. The crash was terrible, and the bodies were thrown from the truck along with everything else that was inside it. It was a terrible, terrible scene. When the crash happened, horribly, it was instant death for almost everyone who was inside of it, except for one survivor. Now, those inside the truck, Laura Van Ryan. Among the passengers inside the truck were Whitney Sirac and Laura Van Ryan, who were both university friends. Now, both of these girls, they looked a little bit similar. They were both blonde, both fairly similar features, both quite pretty, same complexion, same height, same weight. So, although this horrific accident had left 5 people dead, including Whitney, Laura lay there fighting for her life. And a couple who had been driving along, they stopped to help, and they said, we wanted to be sure that we could help anybody that needed it, and we noticed the blonde girl. The man said, I stood over her and I kept saying, hang on, hang on. I did for her what I would do if that was my child laying, dying in the road. So, tragically, Whitney is pronounced dead, along with all of the other victims, and the only survivor is Laura, and she is now fighting for her life. So Laura's family are obviously elated to discover that, okay, she's been really badly hurt. She's in an induced coma. Her face is really heavily bandaged. Her body has been severely damaged, but she's alive. And Whitney's family, they're devastated. They discovered the daughter's dead, and after they received the body from the hospital, they begin to prepare her funeral. Nearly 1,400 people attend the funeral of Whitney as she's buried in her home in Michigan. So, Laura's family, they're at her bedside. Now, she's in this coma, as I said. She's received a brain injury in the crash, and they are caring for her 24 hours a day. So, time begins to pass, and after a few weeks, she begins to emerge from her coma. Now, in the 5 weeks that it takes for her to emerge, family, friends, people who are coming to see her, they begin to notice some very weird things. They start to examine her and question just a few little things here and there. First thing, her teeth look a little different to what they remember, but they put this down to, oh, it's possibly just the injuries that she sustained. Okay, fine. Then, one of them notices she's got her belly button pierced. That's odd. She never had it pierced before. Okay, maybe she got it pierced and she just never told anyone. The boyfriend looks at her and he opens her eyelids at one point and he says, I think her eye colour is different. A couple of friends come to visit and they say, she's got freckles and she never really used to have freckles. So she comes out of the coma after 5 weeks and they start to give her therapy sessions, learning to talk, learning to write, learning to walk, learning to do all of these things again. And when she's asked to write her name, she doesn't write Laura, she writes Whitney. And her family, they're stunned. They don't know why. Why has she written Whitney? That's weird. Why has she done that? That's very odd. So staff begin to say to her, well, what is your name? And she says, it's Whitney. And she has all of these faces looking at her like, no, it's not. Your name's Laura. And she's insistent, no, my name is Whitney. What the fuck? I mean, it's just mad. It's just totally mental. So, it's then worked out that actually Whitney's not dead. It's the most inconceivable mistake to have made. But Laura Van Ryan was the girl who died that day in that crash. And the Van Ryan family has been at the bedside of Whitney for the past 5 weeks, believing that she was their daughter. So the dental records get checked out, and it turns out it definitely is Whitney in the bed. It's just horrific. It's horrific for everybody involved in that situation, isn't it? It's terrible. My first thought when I came upon this story was, it's so terrible to think that Whitney's family buried Laura and that Laura's family nursed Whitney back to health. What a shocker. What a fucking shocker. So it turns out that how this all came about is that a medical official on the scene of the crash had found Laura's purse next to Whitney. And just in the confusion of everything being strewn across the street, the devastation of the crash, the medical officer later said, it was our understanding that we were transporting Laura Van Ryan after the crash. She was in a coma, she had no way to respond to us, and there was no real way to identify her. So unbelievable. So unbelievable. Luckily, I will say that Whitney is now healthy, happy. She's got married actually. She's had like 2 kids, but it's just such a strange story of really, really getting it wrong. So the Van Ryan family were asked to make a statement when all of this came to light, and they said this: "What may come to us as a shock does not shock the one who made us. We have had some hard news, and we're going to share that with you today. Our hearts are aching as we have learned that the young woman we have been taking care of over the past 5 weeks has not been our dear Laura, but instead a fellow Taylor student of hers, Whitney. Over the past couple of days, as Whitney's been becoming more aware of her surroundings, she's been saying and doing some things that made us question whether or not she was Laura. Yesterday we talked with Spectrum staff and the process of doubt began. So we've made a positive ID. We now know without a doubt this is Whitney." Oh, it's such a weird one. It's such a weird one to know how to feel about that. It's so tragic that Laura's dead, but actually amazing that Whitney's alive. Now imagine the conversations that those families must have to have. It's just, oh God, it's horrible. I mean, I think one of the weirdest things about it is that Whitney can actually look at photographs of her own grave. There was a funeral and she's not dead. How creepy must it be to be like, that's what my gravestone looks like. Excellent. I said that Whitney had gone on to get married. This is a small note, but Whitney got married at the same church where they held her funeral. Is that like a weird, I'm going to close the door on this situation? Or is it just a bit weird? I don't know. I think it's a bit odd. I have to say, if people thought I was dead, I don't think I'd be getting married in the same fucking church. Anyway, I'm going to end the story of Whitney and Laura by just playing you a little tiny clip where Whitney is interviewed about what is her relationship like now with the Van Ryan family. The ones who, oh God, unbelievably thought that was their daughter in a coma. Here's the clip.
I absolutely love the Van Ryan family. I think they are a beautiful picture of like what Jesus would act like if he were here now, because they loved me when they thought that I was their daughter, and then they continue to do so. They continue to love me as family even when they knew that I wasn't Laura. And it's just fun to always get around and hang out with them whenever we do that. It feels very natural, and it's just fun. It's like two families being together, and we always have a great time with the Van Ryan family.
It's a bit odd to imagine that Whitney's friends with them, but then I suppose, what else can you do? I don't really know. It's such a... I thought it through in so many different ways, and I was like, you know what? There's no point in any of us trying to guess what that is, and see, until that happens to you, you're not going to know what those relationships should be. None of us can even like hazard a guess what those relationships would be like. So that's the end of the third story. So this ends the stories where people got it wrong. Okay? So what do you think? I guess these stories kind of stay with me. They interest me. It's just, for me, it's the idea that somebody can be wrong and it changes your whole entire life. It's pretty scary. It's pretty fucked up to think that one person who just gets it wrong changes the entire course of your life. And there's so many more out there. There are so many wrongful convictions. There's so many stories where things have got mixed up, things have gone wrong. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the 3 that I picked to tell you. Okay? Thanks for listening. If you want to get to me on Twitter, it's at Extra Stories Pod. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Extraordinary Stories podcast. Thank you for the couple of iTunes reviews that I have got since asking in the last episode. And please, if you haven't left me an iTunes review yet, please could you do so? It would be so lovely to hear from you, and it would really help me out. Okay, I really hope you enjoyed these small stories. Okay, goodbye.
It didn't affect me really one way or the other. I would imagine from the look on his face, let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over. Let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over.